All right. I think we can get started. It is the top of the hour. Well, first and foremost, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome. We're so excited to have you on this webinar. We're going to be spending some time today talking about improving the trajectory of your teams in 90 days. I am Shar Anderson, Senior Director of Customer Success here at RallyBright, where our mission is to make teamwork better for everybody. And I'll also be serving as your host during this time that we have together. With that, I'd love for you to meet our guests today. First, we have Andrew De La Roca, who is the Director of Coaching Success, and Mike Sweeney, our new Chief Strategy Officer. So first, Andrew, I'll tell you a little bit more about him. He's a certified executive and team coach and does a fantastic job supporting leaders and L&D teams at organizations like VMware, Salesforce, ChurnZero, and others to build higher performing teams, more resilient teams, and inclusive teams. So welcome, Andrew. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you, Shar, for the introduction. Welcome, everyone.
And next, we have Mike, who is a certified team coach as well. He's got a master's in organizational psychology and has developed and led high-performing teams in a range of industries. Most recently, he was a VP of digital learning at Bain & Company. Welcome, Mike.
Hello, everyone.
So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Andrew so that we can get started and have some great discussions.
Thank you, Shar. And once again, welcome, everyone. We're glad to have you here. We've been working with teams for many years, leveraging our platform to help organizations transform their teams to become high performing. And today, we'd like to invite you on a journey looking at 3 teams using the data from our platform and the opportunities that they have to accelerate their impact and improve their overall teamwork. So we'll explore together what it will look like to improve their trajectory in the next 3 months. If you are here today, you are either leading a team yourself or you are working as an L&D professional helping teams improve. So before I begin, I have a few questions to ask everyone here. And if you can, please put your answers in the chat box. And Mike will kind of reflect back some of the answers that we're getting there. So the first question is simply, where are you calling in from and what brought you here? Where are you calling in from and what brought you here?
Okay, finding that chat box, I'm seeing Boston, DC, and then I see some folks typing. Westfield, Massachusetts, a CLA grad, welcome.
Welcome.
Chicago, hoping to learn about the platform.
All right.
I learned long ago, adult learners, use me or lose me. Awesome. California, learn about technology. You find that helpful? Got another DC. Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Scranton, great. Well, I know organizations use teams worldwide. So, it seems like we have a lot of interest from different parts of the world. Welcome. Once again, it's great to have everyone here. Our second question for you all, as our focus is on teams today, are what are some of the challenges that you are seeing teams in your organizations face these days?
We had one more in Chicago, a little hub showing up there.
Okay, welcome. So what are some of those challenges? Take a minute, take a moment to think about what you're seeing happening at the team level these days in 2023, post-COVID.
CEOs getting people back into the office, budget concerns. I'm hearing some overcoming biases, in-group, out-group challenges within organizations. So inter-team conflict, new leaders who are inexperienced. Yep. Remote hybrid team concerns, burnout. Oh, keep them coming. This is good. This helps us make sure that we can focus our topic on what you're most interested in. So I've got the bias piece, market disruption, inexperienced leaders, inter-team conflict.
Okay. It sounds like
Teams
there's a.
is very heavy. Yeah. So
Say that again, Mike. That last one.
Some of the technology can be slowing down the basic PC. So kind of fast, efficient technology.
Yeah.
Budget concerns. We hear you.
Yeah.
Communication in general.
Yeah, we've been hearing. Yeah. Lots of challenges out there for teams these days, as always, and then there's always the unique ones that are relevant to what's happening in the world currently, particularly when we have teams that are hybrid or have recently gone remote or trying to bring folks back to the office. We have a lot of those, lots of additional conflict. And then the standard, we have a new leader on an existing team and so on and so forth. Here's our third question, slightly more challenging. All right. Imagine you've been asked to help a team improve and get them on the right track. What would be the first thing that you do? And go ahead and take a couple of minutes to think about it. And when you come up with something, please also type that in the chat.
We've got some OD pros here. What is the gap? Get to know the team, interview surveys, establish a baseline.
Great.
DISC, psychometric surveys, one-on-ones. See where they're not performing well. Use hope as a method. Nice. We have some comedians in the mix here. That is an approach.
Yeah, I mean,
engagement surveys.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a variety of techniques and methods that everyone in this audience is using to take that first step. And it's a difficult thing to answer. There's not a lot of tools out there that are going to give you much precision, for example, about what exactly a team needs to do to improve. And so at RallyBright, we're here to make this step as easy as possible for you. And you might be asking currently about some of the successes our clients have already had with our platform, which we'll show you in just a few moments. But we've helped companies like VMware, Google, Bristol Myers, Moody's, increase their team's engagement, drive their overall performance, and boost their revenue by focusing with precision on how they can best improve their teams. And so we operate under a model and we use a platform, which we will show you in just a few moments, how the outputs that our platform produces. But first, I think it's important for us to understand, okay, what is our point of view around what an effective team actually is or what it looks like? And so we understand an effective team as having three basic primary outcomes. One is that it's having a positive impact on key business drivers. The second is that it is engaged. It's made up of highly engaged team members. And then the third is that even in the face of disruption, that engagement and that impact stays high. So we measure our impact by looking at direction, adaptability, and performance. And then we also measure our engagement by understanding the team's connection and overall attitude. Okay, giving a comprehensive model for team effectiveness. And so our very first step toward improving and transforming a team is to understand, what's going on with this team in these 5 dimensions. And this step has 3 parts. We first want to measure the team's business impact and engagement so that we can determine if the team focus and performance or matters most, or if it's a morale issue, and which should we address first. Then we want to diagnose what is driving those measurements around the team's impact and engagement, so that we have a clear picture of specifically what could be done, to improve them, and thus the team's overall trajectory. So, and we are ardent believers that you can't be successful with the last step without comprehensively engaging in the first two steps. And this isn't normally an easy process, but we make it straightforward for you to do this for 1, 2, or 20 teams at a time. And so that's our approach, and we'd love to hear from you in the audience. What are you currently doing to measure, diagnose, and improve at your organizations? Are there specific tools that you have been using? We'd love to hear from you.
I was promised that there was going to be some singing, Andrew. I think in the rehearsal there may have been a little Marvin Gaye that I heard. This is an area where I really struggled as a leader. Where how do I measure, especially the team? I spent a lot of time looking at the HR tech suite of tools, LMSs and LXPs, and Microsoft Viva, all the things that were coming out, and I didn't find this easy. I did one-on-ones, skip level one-on-ones, talked to HRBPs. I did some surveys. I looked at engagement surveys results. I brought the team together. I held development workshops. I did extensive Google searching. I did a lot to try to figure out how to do this efficiently. And I can see some folks are, Kirkpatrick, quality measures, 360s, or other things like engagement surveys. I remember going to this SHRM webinar, and I kept hearing this team, these leaders talk about what they had done with their teams. And so I ended up becoming a customer of RallyBright. And it's one of those things where I liked it so much I joined the company. So clearly I'm biased, but I haven't found a lot of things on the market that help address some of the team high-performing, resilient, inclusive team specific issues. So interested, I haven't seen a lot of tools that people are using. Engagement surveys, Kirkpatrick, quality metrics, 360s, one-on-ones, etc. But I don't know if there's a lot out there.
Yeah, that's what we've been seeing, Mike. Thanks for sharing. That's what we've been seeing in the markets. There's a lot of labor-intensive processes that are out there that folks are using to try to measure and diagnose those teams. And so, we thought, okay, let's make it easier for everyone to get a quick snapshot. And so we created a platform where all you have to do is run a 20-minute assessment with the team by adding a few emails into the platform. And the platform itself will send an email prompting participants to assess their team based on a set of questions related to our model. All right. And so that is the foundation of how our platform is going to work. And, those 5 dimensions are our overall methodology. We know that there's a lot of smart folks on the call right now, and we look forward to getting your feedback on one of our teams. So I did say we're going to take a look together at 3 teams. Now that we understand a little bit about how we work over at RallyBright, we want to take you through some scenarios and look together at the results of a few of our assessments for some of our recent customers. In fact, one of these just came in within the past couple of days. And so the question for each of these that we are ultimately seeking is, how can we improve the trajectory of this specific team in the next 90 days? And so for the first team, here are the team's overall impact and engagement measurements. And we can see that the team's business impact is the greatest area of opportunity for improvement. Its engagement score is already quite high. The report also breaks down these levels of impact engagement into those 5 dimensions we introduced to you a short while ago to understand the team's overall attitude, connection, performance, adaptability, and direction. And we can clearly see that it's the team's direction in this case that offers the greatest opportunity for improvement. That 73 in the direction dimension is the lowest score of the 5 dimensions here, and it's weighing on the impact score. But there's also more. What are the precise behaviors driving these scores? What is driving direction low and attitude high, for example? Knowing that would tell us what this team's overall strengths are, as well as its biggest vulnerabilities. What can we count on from this team? And what does this team need to fix? So in that 20 minutes, we gathered input from all of the team members. And based on that input, we were able to identify the team's top 10 strengths and vulnerabilities. These strengths and vulnerabilities are each related to a dimension, one of those 5 dimensions on the left. And 3 of those dimensions, direction, adaptability, and performance, determine the team's impact, as I said before, while attitude and connection determine the team's overall engagement. When you have all of this data, then you know exactly where to focus your efforts over the next 90 days. And it turns out that the team does not have well-defined roles with clear accountabilities, nor a set of shared OKRs and or priorities, and is not balancing short, mid, and long-term business objectives. And these are all impacting the team's direction, which is also dragging on the team's overall impact. So with this data, we can conclude that the focus for this particular team for the next 90 days is to improve its direction by getting those roles clarified, taking a look at what it wants to focus on in the short, medium, and long terms, and then developing a shared a shared set of OKRs and priorities. And this is what it looks like to get the team on track by focusing with precision on what matters most to the team. And so this is how RallyBright's platform can help you get that precision. Please, before we move on to the next team, in the chat, what questions does anyone have here? And Mike, if you can just take a look at the chat for us.
Yeah, I was giving them a heads up that we're going to ask them to diagnose team 3. So if you got questions now on strengths, vulnerabilities, definitely ask away. One question came in. How did you get the information? Like, how many questions are there on the team assessment?
Yeah, great question. So everyone gets an email sent out with a link that people can press on to take the assessment. And there's 58 quantitative questions on the assessment and roughly 10 qualitative questions as well, which
we got one
a little extra color. Go ahead, Mike.
And we've got 1 thumbs up. Robust instrument. Thank you for the feedback.
Okay.
Questions are compliment.
Great. We can continue. Mike, do you want to take the second team?
Sure. I will take team 2. Thank you, Andrew. So team 2, we see an impact and engagement score that are equal. So there's not an obvious focus. And if we dive a little deeper, we'll notice that both connection and performance appear to be rated lower by the team, showing maybe some room for improvement there. One thing that concerns me here is the range of scores in connection. You see the size of the bar is greater. So it looks like members of the team may be struggling with feeling connected. And as an organizational psychologist, that's a yellow flag whenever I see varying experiences when it comes to connection. And then when we take a look at the strengths and vulnerabilities, we can see that the team feels that their interactions are dominated by a small group of people. The team members work in silos. Andrew, you were like Johnny on the spot with the, I appreciate it. And also the team members don't challenge each other in a constructive manner. And we also notice on the left-hand side that none of the top 10 strengths say anything about connection. So more data to help us diagnose the situation. So these 3 team behaviors are adversely impacting the team's connection and therefore their engagement. So that's a good place to start. So after reviewing some of the qualitative answers and debriefing with the team leader, the focus for the next 90 days is to improve the team's connection. And so some of the ways to do that is 1, democratizing interactions to be more inclusive and hear more voices. So theoretically that makes sense, but we do this through changing the flow of the weekly team meetings. Another is to reduce those silos. So cross-team interactions, rotating people through subgroup meetings, and a more frequent all-hands meeting cadence. And then finally, helping the team challenge each other more effectively through using a conflict styles assessment and workshop. When these vulnerabilities are addressed, the team's connection will improve, as will its engagement and therefore the team's performance. So again, we're going to give you a chance to do team 3. But before we shift into that, what questions do you have about team 2? Sounds simple, right?
I have a question, Mike. I see on the right, I see 10 items there, but you've chosen 3. Yeah, can you help explain your choices there?
Sure. I looked at the dimension itself. So if you can see on those circle or the boxes on the right-hand side says the dimension, and then they're identified and highlighted in that dotted orange. So picking the dimensions that relate to, or picking the behaviors that relate to the specific dimension to improve is an easier way to improve that dimension. So we've got connection. Those seem to be the ones that would be most related to that overarching dimension. And again, sometimes it's a mixed bag. Sometimes there's a little bit of direction, a little bit of connection, but in this one, it seems like the varied experiences the team is having with connection means that we could bring those scores up and closer together.
Right.
Question that came in, how do you know which interventions to focus on? Great question. And I think this one, there's a little bit of nuance in looking at the data, getting feedback from the qualitative questions that people answered, debriefing with the team leader, and some, for example, this one, you had impact and engagement together. It's a bit of a judgment call, but the one that might have the highest potential impact for the team is a mix of there are no strengths on connection, there are 3 vulnerabilities, and it's the highest variability, and there were some qualitative comments that related to the team's connection. Great question. Other questions before we turn it over to you to help us diagnose? Back to you, Andrew.
Okay, great. So as you can see, we have a rich set of data to use in order to make decisions about what the next few steps are with any particular team. We always want to clarify, make it clear that team development is not a sprint, it is a marathon. So what can we focus on for the next 3 months, and then what are the behaviors in the future for another cycle of 3 months? After running this assessment a second time, we may find out that the team's vulnerabilities have shifted, and then we could choose 3 from that particular next assessment. So going into the third team, and this is for everyone in the audience, we want your suggestions, and we understand that there will probably be a couple different suggestions here, but we have a team with an impact score of 63 and a team engagement score of 68. We can see that the scores for each of these dimensions is relatively low. We have an attitude score at 72, an adaptability score of 65, direction coming in at 64, connection at 64, and performance at 61. Bit of a trickier team. This is why we're looking for some of your feedback about what you would do for the next 3 months. And then looking at the strengths, we can see on the left, we have some strengths coming out of the direction category and the attitude category, but we also have some vulnerabilities in direction as well, which is curious. And in connection, we can see all of the behaviors with the dotted lines are related to that connection dimension. So take a few moments, and we'd love to hear from you. Looking at this information, which of these 10 vulnerabilities would you choose as a focus? What would have the greatest impact? Would it be vulnerabilities related to performance, to connection, to direction, as they're all kind of even? Based on your expertise, we'd love to hear from you.
This is when we need the Jeopardy music.
Mhm. We have some vulnerabilities. I can read some of them to you around decision-making and direction, a number around decision-making and roles and responsibilities, and focus and connection. We have team interactions being dominated by a group of people, surfacing and resolving conflict, siloing, just like we saw with the last example. And then we have a couple in performance, reward and recognition, managing resources, and one in attitude, a sense of cynicism and pessimism.
I'm getting some feedback coming in. One, simply let's go after the lowest score, so performance.
Okay.
There's also, hey, let's start with the one with the largest spread, so the one that has the most variability, so connection and or attitude. Great. Other thoughts?
Those are great.
I mean, it's hard because sometimes generally when it comes to team building, there's a desire like, hey, let's put people in the room, let's do mission exercises, etc. This is the more kind of targeted approach. We've got some coming in around address connection, vulnerabilities, and decision making. So those like that targeted.
Yeah. I think you know, over the next 3 months, decision making can you know, there's some processes that you can take a team through to create some parameters around and protocols around who's making what decision, and then start working on that connection at the same time. I think both are possible.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's easy to say, hey, the team needs to get better, but there's a difference saying, how does the team need to get better?
Okay. Well, I want to be cognizant of timing, and we do want to save some time at the end for other additional questions and answers. So just want to show you a few more of the capabilities on the platform. Thank you for all of your responses. I do think that there's a lot of opportunity with this particular team. We could choose any of these we could choose direction, we could choose connection. This team is definitely primed for some work and some improvement. We did talk about measuring, diagnosing, and improving, and we don't leave you behind on that third step with the RallyBright platform. Once you know what your focus will be, we do have a set of tools and recommendations specific to each vulnerability that you can leverage, or you can bring in your own resources. So for example, if you decided to make as one of your focus the fact that the team's lacking follow-through on decisions that they make as a team, we have recommendations for you, and we have a number of activities that you could leverage. And then our platform was also set up to help you track your efforts. So for example, if after 3 months you're curious if the direction did improve after focusing on decision making, or if the connection improved, you can run a new assessment to see what has changed across those dimensions. In fact, we encourage teams to use the platform throughout the year to track the progress, running an assessment every 4 months. We can see how the team is trending in each of the 5 dimensions, which vulnerabilities have disappeared, which remain, and how united the team has become, or if it's not becoming more united, if it's starting to kind of pull apart. And across the organization with the executive views, you can have a sense of what is a pattern organization-wide and what is unique to a specific team across the 3 dimensions or the 5 dimensions, and in the strengths and vulnerabilities organization-wide as well. We find that,
Andrew,
go ahead, Mike.
just jumping in, like, you know, one of the things that that I liked about this is when there's multiple teams in here, I find it hard sometimes to do formal needs assessment in L&D, and you know, sometimes just getting an early look at which particular dimension might we need to work on for multiple teams makes it so I don't have to go out and, you know, do the surveys, do the interviews, but I can kind of quickly stack up you know, which dimension might we need to have an L&D intervention. And I think, again, being able to see everyone and then know, like, this is a targeted area for my L&D team, what within performance might I need to focus on, what might the behaviors be, just saved a lot of time. Thanks for letting me jump in.
Yeah. Thanks for adding the color, Mike. We appreciate it. We know that you have the experience, not just as a member of our team, but as a customer previously. So great. We did want to wrap up this part at 30 minutes. So, and open it up for additional questions, but those are some of our capabilities. We'd love to hear from you. There's a link. I will drop a link in the chat for anyone who wants to speak with us further. Okay. Let me go ahead and if you look in the chat box, feel free to copy and paste that link. If you would like to learn more. So we'll be here for the next few minutes to answer any questions in the chat. In the meantime, I'll pass it back over to our fabulous host, Shar.
Thanks, Andrew and Mike. That was really great. Tons of good insights from the group as well. So we appreciate the participation. With that, we just want to spend a few minutes opening up to this group to see if you have any follow-up questions. So we'll give you a little bit of time, and we're eyeing the chat to see those come in so we can answer them. So we have one question that's come in. Are there any teams this works best on? Execs, tech, or what have you?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've run them with a variety of teams. We often at the organization level begin with the executive team, and then run with the teams for each of those executives' respective teams. What we want to qualify is these assessments are for teams that are 5 people or more. So we wouldn't use this assessment, for example, on a small team of 4 or 3. Thanks for the question. But tech teams, executive teams, product teams, sales teams, HR teams, we've done them all.
I'll add like a little caveat. One is a difference between a group and a team. A group of people who are working together for a shared purpose would be an important piece. I think a leader who's open to feedback and has enough confidence that it's not their job to fix everything, that the team participates in the fix, and that they're an intact team over time. Ideally, that there's a group of people, same people working together over a period of time. Those are some of the things that I would imagine also indicate a higher likelihood of the RallyBright instrument working best for them.
Okay. Another one's coming in. Is the team able to see the results, or is this just for leaders?
Yeah, great questions. It depends on how the leader wants to format the platform. So when the results come in, it's only available to the leader, but we have a pretty easy button where we can just click share results with the team, and then the team has access to them. Some leaders prefer to just cherry pick some of the data out of the assessment and bring it to the team, and other leaders like to share all of the data. And then for leadership and development professionals, each one takes their own approach with how they want to present the data, but we have capabilities to accommodate both.
I've had the luxury of talking to some of our customers as I've been onboarding. And one of the things I hear also is not only for the team leader and the team members, but sometimes for like chief people officer or HRBP, this provides insights to support team interventions. So if they want to work on direction, the HRBP might look at the team scores, work with the leader, and then from the set of resources, pick the appropriate intervention. So it kind of makes that learning and development professional, chief people officer, HRBP kind of have a tool set to then plan team interventions that are targeted.
One other question here is, have you seen teams combine this data with interview data?
Oh yeah, well, we see that all the time, pretty frequently. So plenty of people who use this platform don't want to give up their interviews, right? They find a lot of value out of having those interviews. And what we found is what this platform does is it gives them the numbers and the data that they can then that validate some of their findings in their interviews. So while they're collecting all of that qualitative feedback, they then have an assessment tool, which is kind of saying, yes, this is actually what you're seeing is actually what the team is experiencing.
You know, some of the best team interventions have that mix of qualitative and quantitative. I know I'll give you one example on my team that I felt like under the dimension of direction, like we were clear, like I felt comfortable, you know, we had a mission, we had priorities, clear roles and responsibilities, but when we doubled in size, half the team didn't know what the purpose was anymore. And one of the questions was, how would you describe the team's purpose? And it was all over the place. I was so surprised. Like I thought we talked about it so many times. And then we could follow up with a targeted intervention. And then if you wanted, you can use some of the data to then plan one-on-one interviews and conversations to follow up. Like, tell us more about trust. Like, what does it feel like? It seems like there's a variation in how connected we feel as a team. Tell us more about your sense of belonging, your sense of inclusion, your sense of being able to bring yourself fully to work. So you could use the quantitative to kind of open the door to deeper qualitative questions. But that mix is sometimes important. And sometimes you can use this information to accelerate coach leader conversations and workshops. So if the leader is working with a coach, the coach has a whole host of information. I mean, typically sometimes there's psychometric instruments that can be used, you know, like DISC, Hogan, et cetera. But at the team level, you know, it's hard to argue when a leader says, like, I feel like we've got a great sense of direction. Well, okay, Mike, here's how your team describes direction. Do you think maybe we should work on it a bit more? And it's like an objective kind of 360 view that opens up deeper conversations with that leader. So if a leader's working with a coach, that's a great opportunity. And the RallyBright feedback can be useful in helping targeted team interventions, but also targeted leadership interventions.
That's great, Mike, because that is one of the questions that came up was, what if they're working with a coach? So super helpful. And thank you for addressing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give it about a minute more to see if there's other questions that emerge. Just saw one. How can I get in touch with RallyBright? Which is a great
question. Yeah, great. I can go ahead and share that link again in the chat box. That link is your ticket. There it is.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew.
Mm-hmm. And we would love to talk to you. Okay.
I think it's starting to slow down as far as questions are concerned. So with that, again, thank you so much, Andrew and Mike and everyone that joined. This has been a great discussion. And we're looking forward to hearing from all of you, or that's anybody that's interested in getting a demo. So we appreciate your time, and I hope everyone has a good rest of the week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks everyone.
Coming.